Hey everyone, I'm Dr. Donald Wallenfang. Always a pleasure to be with you. This time trying out a new microphone, see if that works better. But this video, talking about the psychology of the soul with Edith Stein. Edith Stein, a tremendous thinker of the first half of the 20th century when she lived. And Edith Stein uh, went to university studying history, German, and then she took on psychology along the way. And she was not perfectly satisfied with psychology because if psychology is meant to be the science of the soul, uh, it was lacking in discussion about soul, about the interior life of a person in precise terms. So she looked to philosophy and the mathematician turned philosopher Edmund Husserl to go study with him in Göttingen. So she moves from the University of Breslau to that of Göttingen to study with Husserl and this Göttingen circle of people excited about phenomenology. Um, and so I just want to take this time in this live stream, drawing again from the Catechism of the Catholic Church and a little bit from my 2017 book, Human and Divine Being. And also trying to weave in some psychology, thinking about the human soul, because the word psychology, after all, means the science of the soul. So let's begin with a short paragraph from the Catechism of the Catholic Church. This is paragraph 363. And we read there, in sacred scripture, the term soul often refers to human life or the entire human person. And we have a footnote there pointing to the Gospel of St. Matthew, Gospel of St. John, and St. Luke's Acts of the Apostles, where we have reference to the soul in the sense that means human life, a living being rather than a non-living one. And also this language of personhood. Whenever we use this language, it implies rational soul, a living being who has a rational soul. And that means having intellect and will and freedom, the capacity to love and to be loved as a person. So some creature who has been made in the image of God, who has revealed God's self as a trinity of persons, yet one God. But the soul also refers to the innermost aspect of man, that which is of greatest value in him. Well, what gives the human being dignity? The fact that we're made up of atoms? No. The fact that we're of this similar species that seems quite powerful. What makes us powerful on Earth? Not all of us are as powerful as another one. What gives every human being infinite dignity? The infinity of divinity, the one in whose image we have been made, from which we derive our dignity, our preciousness, our value, our worth, um, uh, dignity. And the Catholic Church talks about human dignity and infinite dignity. And there's a beautiful document by the Dicastery for the Doctrine of the Faith, titled The Infinite Dignity of the Person. And they talk about different kinds of dignity, way we understand that word. But I just love this concept. I can't get enough of it. The infinite dignity of the person. And again, what about us radiates this dignity, calls for it, one to the other, face to face? What gives itself, in phenomenological terms, is this personal call of the other. So Emmanuel Levinas is the best one to read about this, the call of the other. But many phenomenologists, going back to Husserl, the understanding of phenomenology, we want to get back to the things themselves. And if we want to understand ourselves as human beings, We have to get back to the heart of what we are and who we are as human beings. And we're not just matter in motion. We're not just a certain assortment of molecules and, smaller parts making up bigger parts, making up bigger parts. Yes, this is true about our anatomy and physiology in corporeal terms, in terms of the body, the physical body. But that's not all that's going on with us. The fact that we can, in a sense, take a step back from our material bodies, turn and face them, talk about them, reason about them, abstract from the matter, it's all evidence that something besides molecules is going on with our being. So, in the times we're living in which we've made so many advances in the natural sciences, and we know the periodic table of elements so well in terms of chemistry and physics, we need to continue to work to recuperate the truth about our metaphysical being. And this is what I love about Catholicism, the teaching of the Catholic Church gives us this, reminds us of this. And there's an ongoing development of doctrine in the church, but we can't develop the roots that we don't know about. All development of doctrine is anchored in this perennial philosophy and these timeless truths about our metaphysical being. And that's what I love about the work of St. Edith Stein, too, is she discovered this truth, this perennial philosophy, reading and translating the work of St. Thomas Aquinas from Latin to German, especially his disputed questions concerning truth, Questiones disputate de veritate, and she translates much of this into German, and she takes this metaphysics seriously. So I enjoy so much coming back to these texts, coming back to the Catechism of the Catholic Church, and reading something like this again, paragraph 363. Soul also refers to the innermost aspect of man, that which is of greatest value in him, that by which he is most especially in God's image. Soul signifies the spiritual principle in man. And we could hear that language and think, what does that mean? Well, that's what we want to continue to think about together. What is the spiritual principle in a human being? That's what we're calling the soul. So it's to say there's a spiritual principle and there's a material principle, and it's the unity of these that make up the human nature. So I'm not a corpse talking here on this video. I'm a living being. And Stein would prefer to use the German word for body, Leib, a living body, as opposed to Körper, simply a body in general, where we even in English get the word corpse, and the Latin corpus is at the root of all this too. But in any case, a living body, there's something about me that makes me alive. And then when a person dies, what's going on there? Not only in terms of anatomy, physiology, biology, chemistry, but also in terms of the spiritual principle that makes a person a person. I'm alive, and for me, this life, this day, this chance to think about these things is so incredibly valuable, beautiful, and that's how I want to spend my time. I want to search out the truth in every direction. I'm not content just with the periodic table of elements. I find it also interesting. I could spend the rest of my life studying just that alone. But when I think about the chemistry, the physics, the natural sciences, uh, it brings me to deeper questions than they can answer. And this was the case decades ago when I was a freshman at Albion College in Michigan studying pre-medicine. And actually, my sophomore year, I was taking organic chemistry, and I went and met with Dr. French in his office, and I was wondering, what's the source of all these chemical reactions? What's the source? And it's not even on planet Earth. And we were reasoning together, it's the sun in relation to earth, and all these biological processes going on earth, all these inanimate kinds of being on earth, everything that's happening goes back to this causality of the thermal and radiant energy of the sun in relation to earth and these photosynthetic processes and different kinds of biological life. And then we get more complex forms of biological life, and we look at the symbiotic relationship between all this going on, and it's so amazing and it's so wonderful. And so There I am, a freshman, sophomore at Albion College, and I wasn't content with organic chemistry. It's awesome. It's so interesting. But my question still went deeper beyond what the aptitude, the resources of chemistry could provide. So here I am, decades later in life, still so excited about the whole wonder of being, the wonder of being alive, and going on YouTube randomly today to talk about it. And I thank you for joining me. If you who are listening have any questions, you can go ahead and put them in the chat. I'm watching and I'm happy to converse a bit through this medium. But I'm excited. And so I'll make just another little video, a small contribution as a witness, as an encouragement for us human beings to get beyond an AI way of thinking. Because AI, for all that it can do for us, does not have soul, does not have a spiritual principle. It parrots what us personal beings do, and it can do that very efficiently and great. It's a great tool in certain uses, not in all. But need to get beyond just a kind of mechanical way of thinking. And so I'm quite content to follow the lineage of the prophets and ask the question of being once again. This question has not lost its zest on us. The question of being. What is being? We can ask it together again now in the 21st century. Aristotle asked it, what now, almost 2,300 years ago or so, yes? 2,300 years ago, and the pre-Socratic philosophers before him, and all different traditions of philosophy around the world. What is being? What is life? What is the meaning of this existence? I ask it again today. I love how the German poet Rainer Maria Rilke talks about living into the questions. That even right now, we're not ready for all the answers. We have to keep living into the questions. And that's why I like thinkers like Edith Stein, who lived into the questions till the day she died. And I imagine is still living into them into eternity. I like to follow the lead of thinkers like Edith Stein. So I want to just take a passage out of this book, Human and Divine Being, that I published in 2017 on the theological anthropology of Edith Stein. And here is some reference to some more church teaching about the soul, and also thinking about how she thought about these things. So we could say, in contrast to modern ideological and even intellectual currents that would propose to dispense of the facticity of the human soul, and those currents are strong in cultures throughout the world today. I was just looking something up. This is another topic in itself, but the topic of cremation. You know, when people die, what do they want done with their dead bodies, their corpses? What do family members do with them? And, you know, cremation is on the rise around the world. I was reading, like in Japan, it was something, I want to say something like over 90% of people who die, their bodies are cremated in Japan. It's a very a secular place, like some places in the United States. Um, and even in the United States, cremation is on the rise. And we might wonder, why is this? Why are people content with cremation? What about like this Catholic teaching about the unity of the body and the soul, and even the dignity of the dead body? And we look at the liturgical rites of the Catholic Church, and how the corpse is sprinkled with the holy water and treated with great dignity, reverence, respect, all the way through burial. And so Catholicism, it doesn't have an absolute prohibition against cremation, but it says whatever we're doing with bodies after a person has died has to be in reference to our belief in the resurrection of the body. And this is getting lost on us today, I think. And I think the rise of the practice of cremation, yes, a lot of people do it for financial reasons, but there's, going back to the infinite dignity of the person, I think this is something we should think about more. wonder about more. And, for sure, what this reflects is a loss of a metaphysical understanding of the human being, body and soul, and the integral relationship between these two principles, one spiritual, the other material, that are related to God in eternity. And of course, if someone's cremated, we would speculate, well, God creates things out of nothing. God can bring back that body just as well as if the body was still just bones in the coffin or something. Okay, yeah, sure. But I think when we um, approach the dignity of who we are as human beings, we find ourselves in this contemplation to be filled with reverence, respect, care, tenderness. And those of us who remember loved ones we lost along the way, maybe we were there when they died and we saw their living body go to a non-living body. It's a very interesting phenomenon when you're there at someone's side who has died and you witness this. Yeah, there's something of a metaphysical rupture going on here. You notice it. And it's not just a question of is the heart beating, is there respiration, is there brain activity, is there circulation of the blood? Yes, biologically speaking, these are signs of living or not. But spiritually, what's happening at death? What's the relationship between the body and the soul? So, largely in part in culture today, we seem to lose the facticity of the human soul. But someone like Edith Stein attempts to recuperate it, to recover it, and to submit an account of the human soul that is in line with Catholic belief and coherent with the latest advances in scientific understanding, and, formed by the natural sciences. So, in the Judeo-Christian tradition, we have, for example, in the 14th century, the Council of Vienna, that we have a teaching of the church. The bishops gathered there in response to the question of the soul, in order to orient our present discussion, thinking about Stein's work too. So, this uh, is at the top of the list of decrees for the Council of Vienna that met from 1311 to 1312. And this is one that seeks to confirm the Orthodox teaching that the eternal Son of God, the Son of God the Father, the eternal Son of the Father, assumed the fullness of human nature, body and soul, at his conception in the womb of his virgin mother. So this is Christological doctrine. When we say that God became human, what exactly do we mean metaphysically? And we look at all the Christological controversies throughout the history of the church, and there are all different takes on this. But the teaching of the church, especially codified through the councils of Nicaea, Constantinople, Ephesus, Chalcedon, in those 4th and 5th centuries, and then onward all the way to the present, is a unanimous teaching, is a consistent teaching that uh, the eternal Son of the Father, who we also call the Word, the eternal Word, the Logos of God, who eternally proceeds from the Father, who is eternally begotten of the Father, becomes human through the womb of the Blessed Virgin Mary and her assent, her yes, her fiat, and that God, there's a hypostatic union we say takes place in Christology, and the eternal Son of God, the second person of the Trinity, the divine nature is united to this human nature, and the human nature is body and soul. And that union between the eternal Son of God the Father, who becomes human, and the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. We read in the Gospel of St. John, pitched his tent among us, literally, John 1:14. His human nature is both body and soul. It's not just body, it's not just soul, uh, it's body and soul together. So the Council of Vienna is talking about what is the soul then in relation to the body. And so we get this passage, Council of Vienna writes, adhering firmly to the foundation of the Catholic faith, other than which, as the apostle testifies, no one can lay, we openly profess with Holy Mother Church that the only begotten Son of God, subsisting eternally together with the Father in everything, in which God the Father exists. We profess in the Nicene Creed, consubstantial, homoousias in Greek. The Son of God assumed in time in the womb of a virgin the parts of our nature united together, from which he himself, true God, became true man, namely the human passible body and the intellectual or rational soul, truly of itself and essentially informing the body. So we're getting there, and that definition of the Council of Vienna about the incarnation of Jesus, incarnation of the eternal Son of God, was incarnately called Jesus. That's what's happening here is the divine natures being united to the passible body. That is the body capable of suffering, the mortal body capable of decay, illness, infirmity, injury, all these things, yes. And so the body is very susceptible, very fragile, but that spiritual principle of the person, the intellectual, rational soul, truly of itself and essentially informing the body. This is the teaching of the church, that the Son of God is united to both body and soul in the unity of the human nature, and the hypostatic union of divinity with humanity. Two natures, then, one person. The two natures are united in the one person who is Jesus. Okay, this is probably good for now. I see I've lost some people on the live stream. They've got other stuff to do today too. Thank you all for joining me in this shorter presentation, about 22 minutes. Thinking about the human soul. Why not? It's very worthwhile to think about together. If you want to think more about it, again, I would really draw your attention to the Catechism of the Catholic Church. Great passages here, paragraphs 362 to 368, and look at cross-references there. And the my 2017 book, Human and Divine Being, a study on the theological anthropology of Edith Stein. Still love going back to all these passages here and quotes from church teaching from the work of Stein herself. And before you know it, we'll get into Aristotle's 4 kinds of causality. I've done some other YouTube videos on these before, but it never gets old. We can go back to some of that. I haven't presented on all that's in this book directly, I don't believe, in YouTube videos. So we'll look forward to that into the future. So let us all continue to think toward the whole, to pray from the heart, and to live as a witness. We'll see you in the next one.